Warning. I chain smoke and I say fuck a lot. But I accept myself for the way I am. I accept you too. Viewer discretion advised.
Presents a proposal.
I am Peter Flaherty, Chairman of the National Legal and Policy Center. If we had an independent chair, the company would be less identified with Mr. Buffett's political activities. He's donated tens of billions to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. As Bill Gates explained when the company was still together, although the company bears our names, basically half our resources have come from Warren Buffett. If woke culture is the disease, then philanthropy is the virus. The Gates Foundation bankrolls the teaching of critical race theory around the country, including that math is inherently racist. The Gates Foundation offers a gender identity toolbox, which asserts that gender is a result of socially and culturally constructed ideas. This is a lie. Gender is not a cultural construct. It is a genetic and biological fact. You're not going to censor what I say, ma'am. I'm very sorry. And I'll appeal to the chair that I be allowed to continue. Sir?
You may continue, but you're under a 3-minute limitation.
Of course. We know how much Bill Gates cares about children. He met and traveled with Jeffrey Epstein many times after Epstein's convicted sex crimes. The Gates Foundation had a huge influence over the COVID response fiasco. The Gates Foundation may be the largest single donor to the dark money machine known as Arabella Associates. It funds causes like defunding the police, making American cities unlivable. Money goes also to groups conducting threats. Right after the end of that clip that you showed, almost immediately, I was told to leave. Now, I was standing there. As far as I was concerned, I had a favorable ruling from the chair. I did not really know when my mic had been turned off, and I was still under my 3 minutes. I had every right to be there and to continue to speak. But two security people approached me quickly, told me I had to leave. I said, well, I'd like to finish my statement. And they said, you're not going to finish your statement. You have to leave or you'll be arrested. And almost immediately, I mean, within seconds, there was a Omaha uniformed policeman there who was summoned, and he grabbed me by the arm and said, you're under arrest. And they hauled me out. They took me to jail. They searched me. They handcuffed me and charged me with a form of trespass.
With trespass? So now so are you facing this charge of trespassing for an event that you were invited to speak at?
Yes. My court date is May 22nd. Now, this was not at a Q&A or something like that. We filed a shareholder proposal. It was in the proxy. It was printed in the proxy. It was subject to regulation by the SEC. We filed a long proxy memo in support of our resolution on April 21st. I released my remarks in advance, a couple days in advance. So Berkshire knew exactly what I was going to say. And if they objected to it, they had the opportunity to get in touch with me. Berkshire never contacted us. So I get there, and as Kathy Willems greeted us, she was a liaison for the proponents that day. And the first thing she says to me is, you better stay on topic. And I've been doing this a long time, and I've never had anybody say that to me. They have no right to define what you say or tell you what to say. The whole point of me being there is to offer my perspective, not theirs.
I do applaud him for speaking truth to power and getting arrested for it, but he may have forgotten something. Warren Buffett has some of the same proclivities as Bill Gates. Now, I'll try to keep this as short as possible because I know most of you probably already know all about the Franklin cover-up and the documentary Conspiracy of Silence. But for those who don't, here's a really quick rundown on the documentary.
A Republican from the Midwest, Lawrence E. King, is serving a 15-year prison sentence for a multi-million-dollar fraud. But financial crime is only half the story. This is the true story of Lawrence King. It is the story of an evil at the heart of America, of a cover-up at the highest level.
The web of intrigue that starts in our Holy of Holies, Boys Town, Nebraska, one of the most respected institutions in the United States, and spreads out like a spider web to Washington, D.C., right up to the steps of the nation's capital, the steps of the White House, involves some of the most respected and powerful and richest businessmen in this United States of America. And the centerpiece of the entire web is the use of children for sex and drug dealing and drug couriers, the compromising of politicians, the compromising of businessmen, but worst of all, the corruption of key institutions of government that have the duty and responsibility to make sure these things never happen. Larry King was the fastest rising black star in the entire Republican Party of the United States during all of the 1980s. And he was also one of the most evil individuals in this country in terms of being a dealer of children, in terms of being a thief, 40 million that they documented he stole, and in terms of using and compromising and corrupting one after another politicians.
Despite the investigation, Larry King remained free to feed his pedophilic parties with child victims. But King's extravagance attracted the attention of the Internal Revenue Service. As a result, on April the 11th, 1988, the Franklin Credit Union was raided and closed by the FBI. King was arrested, and a federal investigation showed he'd stolen $40 million from Franklin. But the FBI's inquiries were secret, and evidence of King's sex ring was quickly covered up.
Every victim witness who stepped forward in any way, or even was a potential witness that somebody heard about, has either been killed, put in jail under some theory or other, terrified or run out of the state, discredited. Every perpetrator, even the convicted ones, have been treated as conquering heroes. Obviously, the FBI was protecting something a lot more significant than a bunch of old pedophiles having improper relations with little boys. They were protecting something a lot more significant than a bunch of drug peddlers. They were protecting, in my opinion, they were protecting some very prominent politicians, some very powerful and wealthy individuals associated with those politicians and the political system, up to and including the highest political people in this entire country.
Well, it turns out that in the 80s, Warren Buffett was one of the biggest backers of Larry King, Lawrence King. Here's just a few excerpts where he's mentioned in the book, The Franklin Cover-Up. Among the backers and contacts of Larry King and the Franklin Credit Union, certain standouts deserve special attention. These are Harold Anderson and his World Herald, former State Game and Parks Commissioner Eugene Mahoney, Omaha multi-billionaire Warren Buffett, First Tier Bank, Union Pacific Railroad, the famous Boys Town Orphanage, and the Omaha Girls Club. One of King's earliest boosters was the wife of a man with an unrivaled reputation for shrewd investments, Warren E. Buffett, chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. Based in Omaha, Buffett is the second biggest stockholder in the Washington Post and a controlling power in ABC TV. In 1991, he acquired large blocks of stock in American Express and Wells Fargo Bank. When Salomon Brothers faltered in August of 91, the owner of 13% of its stock, Buffett, stepped in as interim chairman. With $4.4 billion to his name, Buffett is ranked by Fortune magazine as the 24th richest man in the world. In the United States, he is among the top 5. In Omaha, the Buffett mystique gains from the fact that there are 200-some Buffett millionaires who made their fortunes by investing through Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. Buffett favors the multiplication of money, but not people. He contributes to groups advocating radical population reduction. His Warren Buffett Foundation lists hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants to negative population growth. The Association for Voluntary Sterilization, Planned Parenthood, the Population Council and Population Institute, the Sex Information and Education Council, and Federal American Immigration Reform. Negative population growth members, according to the group's literature, believe that a drastic reduction in total population size represents the only viable option consistent with human survival. Negative population growth, or NPG, wants the U.S. and then every country to enact programs to drop the U.S. and world populations to 1/2 its present levels within 90 to 100 years. Buffett contributes approximately 7% of NPG's total budget. Yet another area where Bill Gates and Warren Buffett have a lot in common.
On May 5, 2009, some of America's leading billionaires met in a private Manhattan home just a week before the annual meeting of the secretive Bilderbergers. Calling themselves the Good Club, attendees reportedly included Bill Gates, David Rockefeller Jr., Warren Buffett, George Soros, New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, Ted Turner, and Oprah Winfrey. According to John Harlow of the Sunday Times, the group, while not going so far as to advocate active depopulation strategies, agreed with Gates that human overpopulation was a priority concern. Harlow said there was nothing as crude as a vote, but a consensus was reached that they would back a strategy in which population growth would be tackled as a potentially disastrous environmental, social, and industrial threat. Apparently, those with great wealth and power have decided to take overpopulation into their own hands.
Language about Buffett and his own abounds with references to his, quote, cult. A 1991 Washington Post write-up of his annual shareholders meeting quoted guests along those lines, quote, "It's like worshiping at the altar of the high priest of finance." He has a very large cultish following. Buffett himself called his management staff magicians, said Steve Forbes of Forbes magazine, talking to National Public Radio about Buffett. Quote, "He's not Moses, but they read what he says as if it were written on tablets. Buffett's economic forecasts are more listened to than papal encyclicals or the State of the Union message." In 1974, when stocks were at a low, Buffett told Forbes he felt, quote, "like a sex maniac in a harem, wanting to buy." On November 8, 1991, the Wall Street Journal trumpeted in a 2-page spread on Buffett as, quote, "the Oracle of Omaha." That is, quote, "folksy image belies a killer instinct." Back in from Buffett's socialite wife, Susie, came early in the rise of Larry King. Susie Buffett was a volunteer at the credit union in its early days. According to the Lincoln Journal-Star of March 19, 1989, King liked to tell the story of a woman coming to the credit union to see him and being told to return at 7 the next morning because he was so busy. The woman was Susie Buffett, wife of billionaire Warren Buffett, and she did come back to offer her help at the credit union. For years, it has been part of Larry King lore in Omaha that the Buffetts hosted a 10th wedding anniversary party for him and Alice. James Traub's December 1991 Gentleman's Quarterly article served as a platform for Warren Buffett to deny he had a role in that affair, and to insinuate that perhaps the party never happened. Quote, in 1978, King asked Susan Buffett if she would be willing to host his and Alice's 10th anniversary party at her house. Susan said yes, but her husband said no. Paula Albert, a close researcher of the Franklin scandal, who has interviewed several people who attended the anniversary party, commented that the Buffett/Traub account was carefully worded. Buffett avoided an outright assertion that the party didn't take place. But, quote, "you'd be left with the thought that it never happened if you didn't know anything." Buffett told Traub, quote, "I knew that King was a phony. It was like he had a big sign on his head saying, "Phony, phony, phony." These protestations prompt the question, why, if Buffett saw so clearly that Larry King was a fraud, he did not alert his friends at First Tier or the World Herald? Buffett is a director emeritus of one of the institutions that merged to become First Tier, and he served on the World Herald board. Larry King returned favors by hosting a fundraiser for Buffett's son, Howard, when Howard ran for Douglas County Commissioner. Warren Buffett may have done some more private socializing with Larry King, if a former Omaha City employee is correct in his report that when Larry King was crowned, quote, queen at the Max Gay Bar, Warren Buffett was his escort. "This is what his cousin Barbara Webb told me," said the source. She said the people, they were mad because Larry brought his son and his wife there.
For John de Camp, the story of Larry King's corrupt empire holds a dire warning for America.
If you can control about 3 or 4 key elements, you can totally own a state. You can make right wrong. You can make truth falsehood, falsehood truth. If you control the media, if you control the Justice Department, if you control the police, you own the system.
Was he right or what? Fucking stoned.